Let me tell you a little bit about our group. We're a project or a center within Yale University at the Forestry and Environmental Studies School. We're called the Yale Project on Climate Change Communication. And our primary goal is to conduct research on public climate knowledge, risk perceptions, a whole range of issues actually. We're doing a lot of message testing. We're trying to design platforms and messages that are going to appeal to very different kinds of people. And we want to get this information out to people exactly like you if you find it helpful. We've got our fingers in a lot of pies. We've got a lot of things cooking. I won't go through all of that. We've got publications you can download from our website if you're so interested. But what I want to do now is I just want to give an overview of public opinion on climate change as it now stands. And in doing so, I'm going to talk about resiliency in a different way than has been talked about thus far. And that is, I think, in a good way, in that there has been a resiliency in the belief among Americans that climate change is real and it's happening. And Exhibit A is right here. I have a lot of devices up here. Okay. What this is this is trend data that goes back to November of 2008. And back then, 7 in 10 Americans thought that climate change is happening. Well, that belief fell by January 2010 when we next measured it. And this finding is actually corroborated by a lot of different people who've been polling on the same subject. And we're wondering why that is. Well, right about here is when ClimateGate happened. A lot of the denial community was becoming much more mobilized, sowing a lot of confusion. Also at this time, the fact that the recession was here to stay was really sinking in, and that was really taking up a lot of space in the media, and climate wasn't talked about a whole lot. But ever since then, slowly but surely, over the last couple of years, we have seen that belief rebound. So it is a positive sign in my view. Also, in the same time period, what we've seen is that right here, back in 2008, over half of Americans believed that climate change was mostly human-caused, but that fell. And now, back in the last poll that we just did in September, we're seeing a new majority again understanding that climate change is mostly human-caused. Now, this is a tricky subject, and it's something that the denial community has been very effective in emphasizing. This idea that there is a lot of confusion among climate scientists. The people don't really agree that there's, that the climate change is happening or that it's human caused, what have you, when in fact there's a virtual consensus that climate change is happening among climate scientists. And what we're seeing here is we're still seeing a lot of people think that there's a lot of confusion, that's that 36%, but a majority, a clear majority for the first time, or a clear plurality for the first time in a while, believes that there is some agreement, and we hope to see that keep going up. And people slowly but surely are beginning to believe that climate change is an imminent threat. In 2010, only 28% thought that climate change was harming people in the United States right now. We see also a growing trend here of people who think that climate change is harming people around the world right now. So we are seeing so a lot of our efforts, I think, are starting to pay off in public opinion. Okay. Let me talk a little bit about support for policies. Not many Americans right now would like to see a large-scale effort, even if it has large economic costs. However, almost half, 44%, say that they'd be willing to fund a medium-scale effort. And very few people, 12%, say that there should be no effort. I'll skip by that one. There is support, these blue bars, and this 50% line, you know, when it crosses that, it's more than half. Do support a range of policies. You probably can't read that, but majority of Americans support funding more research into renewable energy sources, I can't read it myself, to provide tax rebates for people who purchase energy efficient vehicles or solar panels, to regulate CO2 as a pollutant, and all the way on down. So there is support for policies that would actually cost money out of people's pocketbook. Okay, so what I've done is I've painted some very broad strokes about what the American public believe, but as we know, the American public is not a monolith, and in fact, there are very different kinds of people who have very different views on climate change. And what we did is we took our data and we did a segmentation, and we came up with the 6 Americas, and many of you have heard of this. And I'm just going to introduce the 6 Americas to the people who aren't familiar with them. And what we have is we have a range of people all the way from the alarmed, which comprise 16% of the population. These are the people who are really concerned about what's going on, all the way down to the dismissives. These are people who think that, you know, it's a hoax perpetrated by the Freemasons or the Trilateral Commission or whatever. And actually, Eddie earlier today said that there are some people who you just simply can't change their hearts and minds. These guys, no chance. It's not worth spending time trying to change their hearts and minds. I'm sorry. So let me just give you flesh out a little bit more about who these folks are. The alarmed, they're the people who are the most engaged. They tend to be the most knowledgeable about the issue. They know it's happening. They know that it's human caused, and they think that it's an urgent threat. They are taking personal actions in their own lives, or talking to people about it. They tend to be middle-aged women, college-educated, moderate to liberal politically. Then about 3 in 10 Americans are what we're calling the concerned group. They also know that climate change is real. It's a serious threat. It requires policy intervention, but they're a little bit less involved, and they're less likely to be making attempts to reduce their own carbon footprint. They have relatively strong egalitarian values and are fairly moderate politically. Okay, then we've got the cautious. That's about 1 in 4 Americans. Now, they think that global warming is a problem, but they're a little bit more shaky in their beliefs. They don't think that it's something that's going to affect them necessarily, and they feel little urgency to act. They don't think that it's something that's going to happen, you know, that's happening now. It's going to happen sometime in the future. Then we have a group called the disengaged, and these are people who just aren't thinking about the issue at all, really. They are open to changing their minds about it in either direction. They're demographically, they look like the cautious, but they tend to be a little bit less educated, report lower incomes, and are more likely to be minority women. Okay, then we've got the doubtful, and that's 13% of the population. They're split evenly between those who believe global warming is happening, and those who don't, and those who don't know. But this is the group that's most likely to say that climate change is due to natural causes, and that there's not much that we can do about it, that we shouldn't be engaging in policy to try to help things. They tend to be older, white, Republican men. And then we've got the dismissives. This guy right here. And in a way, they're kind of the evil twin of the alarmists, because they are they have an outsized voice in the whole debate. They're the people who, when you read an article about climate change, they write all of those angry rebuttals. They're listening to Rush Limbaugh, et cetera, and they are hell-bent on making sure that nothing happens, that no action is taken, because they just think it's a fraud. It's the people who, the Jim Inhofe types. Okay. However, I do want to leave with a somewhat optimistic note. That being that, there are undoubtedly, and I could show you slide after slide after slide, of differences between Democrats and Republicans on their opinions about policy, a whole range of issues associated with climate change. But what you see is that Democrats, when we ask them, should the US in the future use more renewable energy? Democrats, they're the blue bars, clever, right? They are likely to say that, the majority of them are likely to say that we should be doing somewhat more than we are today, okay? And you see it goes all the way down to those who say we should be doing much less than today. To a lesser extent, but still you see the same trend among Republicans. So Republicans as well believe that the US should move toward renewable energy. And that's a great place to start. We've done a lot of research on how you talk to Republicans and conservatives to try to convince them that moving toward a renewable energy future is to everyone's benefit. And we're going to continue to do that, and we're optimistic. Ultimately, we'll figure it out. So that's it.